Oh, got it. Thanks, everyone. My name is Kevin Jenkins. I have the pleasure of serving as council member of District 6. Really thankful for that opportunity. So we're here because of the recent uptick in violence, property crime, and vehicular break-ins in Maxwell Park.
So this guy is the new district council for Maxwell Park, Kevin Jenkins.
Okay.
So
Thank you. And so our mailboxes were flooded with angry residents, rightfully so, because of their cars had been violated. Can we mute folks? Yeah, so our mailboxes were flooded because people were rightfully saying that their vehicles were broken into. And I believe this deserved a prompt and swift response. And so I called, I spoke with the mayor of Oakland and told her what was going on. And she's well aware. I spoke with the chief. We also have our area captain on. Approaches that OPD can take. We're also looking at regional strategies because we realize that these car break-ins, people go from area to area to area, especially in Northern California. And looking at seeing if we can get some tips and strategies on how we can attack this as a community. I understand that people are angry and I want to offer space for folks to be angry. I want to offer space for solutions and I want to offer a space for a plan to move forward. And with that, I'm going to turn over some time to Jose Dorado, who is the neighborhood council chair of Maxwell Park. And then from there, we will have a representative from OPD to give some updated information as well as tips and strategies.
Mr. Dorado, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Yes, thank you, Kevin and his staff. My name is Jose Antonio Dorado. I'm the chair of the Maxwell Park Neighborhood Council. Have been since we've been together since 1998. So for anyone who does not know about the Maxwell Park Neighborhood Council, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to let you know of our history and our dedication to making Maxwell Park better. My wife, Paulette, and I live there on the corner of Camden and Madera. Very, very happy to be in the neighborhood, and we've been here, I guess 25, 26 years now. Wonderful neighborhood, wonderful neighbors, and we want to make it better. So we've been working again since 1998 to do that. And I could go into a long list of what we've done in those ensuing years. But bottom line is that we want to see community policing work in Oakland. We certainly want to see it work in Maxwell Park. And we're just dedicated to the maximum to see that that happens. And that directly relates to the vandalism that we've seen happening. And we'll talk more about what are possible solutions and what the council can do to move those solutions along. And I just don't want to take a whole lot of time, but I just want to let everybody know we're here. We've been here. We're working hard, and there's any number of people that are on. I haven't checked everybody that's here, but certainly I see Donald Dalkey, who lives on Monticello, who's one of our at-large members. We also have a regular board, vice chair, membership secretary, recording secretary, 3 at-large members. So we are a working board, and we're ready, willing, and able to make this our neighborhood better. And certainly that means addressing this recent spate of vandalism. So I'll leave it at that, and certainly I'll come back with comments and suggestions for how we can do exactly that and make our neighborhood better. And I just want to acknowledge Veronica Garcia, who's the chair of the Melrose Neighborhood Council down in below us, 27X. We're B28X. So I'll leave it at that, and let's hear from, I guess, OPD is up next in the agenda. Right, Kevin?
Mr. Tedesco, you're unmuted.
Yes, I am unmuted, and thank you. For those that don't know, I am Captain Anthony Tedesco. I am the police captain of Police Area 5. That's from High Street to 82nd Avenue, from the 580 down to about the 880. I have been in this assignment since July of last year, and Council Member Jenkins reached out to me about the rash of auto burglaries in the area, and I'm happy to come in and talk about the issues, talk about solutions, the challenges that we have so far, and some of the patterns that we've been seeing, and then some proactive steps about it. I want to hear from people in this meeting about how the challenges are you're seeing it firsthand, day in and day out. So I want to hear from you on those things, on what we can do better, and different strategies that we can go through. So I had an opportunity to go and meet with our Criminal Investigations Division burglary investigators, and we saw a number of auto burglaries in the Maxwell Park neighborhood in the last couple of weeks. Several different streets. I'm sure some of you know. Birdsall, Kingsland, multiple along that way. Some of them, there were some good vehicle descriptions for the persons involved. As many of you, I'm sure, are aware, not just Oakland and not just California, but we're dealing with a really national outbreak of stolen Kias. 2012 to 2020 Kia Sorentos, and then their near equivalent Hyundai models. This is because of an apparent weakness in design that makes them extremely easy to steal. It's a mechanical issue. It's a difficult fix from the automaker's perspective, and it's gotten very, very tough. And so what we've seen is a huge rash of stolen Kias, stolen Hyundais, and they're being used in a number of different crimes. And looking through the auto burglaries that I've seen in Maxwell Park, a number of those incidents, the persons involved were driving a Kia. In some cases, actually in all the cases that I saw, I didn't see any license plates obtained in those instances. But just based on the experience of what we're seeing right now, I suspect those are stolen vehicles that are being used in those crimes. We've got a number of people in the neighborhood that have pretty good video cameras that have given us some leads in that area. And unfortunately, we had a residential burglary at a 54th and MacArthur, but the property owner there had some very good video, give us some very good leads as to the person that perpetrated that crime. And I hope that we will be able to move forward making an arrest. We've got some persons that we suspect are involved at this point based on that video recovery. Really, when we're talking about particularly auto burglary, it's a challenge that isn't at the same scale as some of our commercial districts in the city. The Hagenberger corridor, down by the Starbucks and the airport, downtown area, and a number of the different business districts, they see hundreds and hundreds of auto burglaries. And it's difficult there in messaging because many of the people are coming from out of town. It's hard to get messaging to them to say, don't leave valuables in your car. Don't be an easy target. Fortunately, I think in this instance, in the residential neighborhood, there's a number of different things that we can do, and we can talk about some successful strategies that I've seen, even not too far away over on McCollum, Simpson, Altamont. where we've seen some pretty successful strategies in a place that was being targeted for residential burglary regularly, and that has dropped off dramatically. And it's a couple of different things. One, we have to be aware of the trend that's going on, especially as a concern to auto burglaries, and we have to protect ourselves by not leaving valuables in plain sight. One of the things that I think is important to understand is that when a person that's involved in theft is successful in a location, they will return to that neighborhood in hopes of being successful again. And if they're successful multiple times, the targeting will expand exponentially, because we have a number of different, what I would call professional auto burglars that operate in the Bay Area, that move up and down the 880 and the 580 on a circuit. And when they have great success in a space, we see that they will concentrate in that space. And I think that's what's happening currently in Maxwell Park, is there's been some success and they have returned repeatedly to the neighborhood. So one of the things that we need to do is make it a non-lucrative environment for them, so that when they come to the neighborhood to do these crimes, there's nothing to be had, and they move on to a different place. Another thing that I think is very important is meetings like this one, where we are aware, and it sounds to me like from previous participation in this meeting, we know each other, and the importance of being able to communicate quickly in your neighborhood with a number of different people as to what's going on or suspicious activity is critical. Now, I will say with the caveat, please don't confront auto burglars. As tempting as it may be, we are seeing a number of retaliatory pieces of violence against people involved in these crimes. We've also had a rash of catalytic converter thefts, targeting particular vehicles, particular makes and models, trying to get those high dollar items. It's a slower crime than auto burglary, than breaking a window and taking a bag, and it's a noisy crime. Often sawzalls are used, and what it leads to is many people being woken up in the late hours or early hours of the morning to find somebody underneath their car. Unfortunately, we've had a number of people, luckily I think nobody injured to date in Area 5, but we have had a number of people who were shot at confronting people that were in progress stealing a catalytic converter. The best thing you can do in that circumstance is be a good witness. Get as much information as you can to forward on to the police as quickly as you can, so that we can respond. We will respond to in progress crimes like that. And I can tell you that auto burglary and catalytic converter theft, we're coming after those because they're serial. We see that a small number of people does a huge number of these incidents, so that if we can make an arrest, it makes an immediate impact in the crime. As to being a good witness, I can tell you firsthand, today we had an academy graduation, and leaving the academy graduation, driving down the street, I observed a person what ultimately appears to be committing a robbery of a FedEx driver. And the FedEx driver, really smart, heads up, stood back and waited for the perpetrator to flee, and then took a video, which was absolutely critical when we caught the person a couple of blocks away into positively identifying them. Got a very solid video of the person running away, and it was critical in us being able to say that's the same person that committed this crime. So to the extent that you can be a good witness, that is really the safest thing that you can do, and probably the most effective thing that you can do for the follow-up investigation. Now, I want to also talk a bit about technology, because I've seen some pretty high degree of success, as I mentioned before, up on McCollum, Altamont, Simpson Street. And I don't know if anybody, if there's anybody that's familiar with the residents there or is familiar with what they've done, but they've installed a number of a network of security cameras and license plate readers throughout their neighborhood. And it's a private system. When a crime happened up there, they report the information to the police, and they did it in response to an outbreak of residential burglaries in their neighborhood. And it didn't have an immediate shutdown effect, but it had a sustained shutdown effect over years, because as the message got out, if you come up here to break into a car or break into a house, you're going to be on video the moment that you turn into the neighborhood. Your license plate's going to be on file with the residents of that neighborhood, and they're going to have excellent follow-up information to be able to investigate you down the road. And really, that makes a location really unattractive to people that are doing this professionally. The people that are doing this day in and day out, they don't want to go to a challenging environment. They would much rather go to an easy environment to commit these crimes and move on. I think I've talked long enough without questions. I'm happy that I've got my couple of community resource officers, looks like Sergeant Ron Johnson and new CRO, welcome, Anthony Andrews. He worked for me in patrol in Area 5 previously. Happy addition to the team. Really glad to have him. So I don't know the next item on the agenda, but if there's questions for me or if there's another speaker.
So that was really useful information. I'm glad that we're getting this recorded. I think it'd be helpful to just an introduction of the CRO so people know who they are and know how to get in contact with them. And then we can open it up for questions.
There's like Officer Andrews is, he'd probably have to unmute him in order to. There we go, off mute.
Hello, my name is Officer Andrews. I'm the new CRO officer for Area 5, B26, and I'm excited to work with everyone and meet everyone. And thank you for having me, sir.
Oh, you're a happy addition to the team. I want to just tell everybody here, he worked for me in patrol last year. Multiple commendation earner, really a hard worker, just a really good addition to this team. Very happy to have him. And then we've got Sergeant Ron Johnson here as well.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Yes, I am. So I'm Sergeant Ronald Johnson. I've actually been a part of the CRO program since its exception. I was actually when we used to call them problem-solving officers, and I was actually the problem officer for B28 when I was an officer. I've been back as a sergeant for the last, I believe, 7 years. And if you actually need to get in touch with me, email is the best form to get in touch with me. And my email address is rjohnson@oaklandca.gov. And I'll be willing and able to take any questions, or if you want to email me about your concerns, I'd be happy to take all those emails.
Thank you, Sergeant Johnson, and absolute wealth of experience in Sergeant Johnson in the problem-solving unit and that community resource officer team, person that really understands how to make things work and how to make projects successful. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think you have Officer Shumpert on here as well.
Did we get Officer?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, yes.
Yeah, my name is Officer Sheldon Sumter. I am the CRO for District 5, which is beats 26 through 30. I've been with the department for 7 years now. I've spent the last 3+ years with CRO, and I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm here now.
Thanks for coming in. Can all the officers put their information in the chat? That's one of the questions. I have Veronica Garcia has a question, and then Patricia Patterson. And I'm gonna unmute you.
Hi,
Go ahead.
everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for putting this together. This is great because I got so many calls and text messages from neighbors, both in the Maxwell and in the Melrose neighborhood. Thank you, CROs, for being here. I know it's your day off, so I really appreciate that you guys are here. Um, with that said, do you guys know, and I don't know if this is for you, Sergeant Johnson, or for Captain, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Tedesco or Tedesco? Are you Spanish or are you Italian?
Italian. Good
Got
guess.
it.
Very well
And
done.
so my question is, I've seen that a lot of the windows are actually not like it seems like they didn't steal anything. It seems like they're just vandalizing the windows. And so there's a conspiracy theory going around the neighborhoods, both Maxwell Park and Melrose, that it's actually just for windows repairmen so they can make more business. Have you guys heard anything? I know I see a few people laughing, but every time today I walk my dogs and I got stopped by so many neighbors and I walk up the hill, meaning towards Maxwell Park. And I had a lot of conversations with neighbors. And that's the theory that everyone's like, no, they didn't take anything. We had absolutely nothing in the car. Others are saying my window was shattered and it had a small hole, which means they didn't get into the car. And so this conspiracy theory has begun. And so I'm hoping you guys can tell us more about why are they just vandalizing the windows?
I think Sergeant Johnson's raising his hand, but I can also weigh in. Sergeant Johnson, if you want to jump in, I can follow up.
And by the way, Sergeant Johnson, that's why I called you to get some more info on that.
Well, I know this is Officer Sumter. I know from my experience, a lot of the 459, auto burglary suspects, they often will have one person drive in their car and then the other one gets out the car and he prowls throughout the cars. And what they'll do is they'll what's called bip the car with a device. They'll just shatter the window and reach in. If they can grab something, they will. If they can't, they'll go to the next car. And what they'll do is what they typically do, especially in the downtown area, and this is especially in like San Francisco, where I used to live, is they'll ride up and down the street with a row of cars and they'll just bip the car windows, the back window typically, and put their arm in. If they grab something, they grab something. If they don't, they'll go to the next car and they'll go for like at least a block or two. So I don't know if they're necessarily just vandalizing the vehicles altogether, but they're actually attempting to remove something from the car. If not, pull down the back seat and reach into the trunk as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up on Officer Sumter. So I was actually a victim of a auto burglary, or I should say a vandalism as well in Oakland. They bipped my back window and just pulled it out to see if there's anything in there. So a lot of times that's what they're doing. They're just looking for something to take. They don't care if they break your window or anything else. It's speed and accuracy for them. They just want to go in there, break a window, try to get something, and then jump back in the car and take off. Watching some of these auto burglaries, they actually they happen within seconds. You have one person driving, the other person in the back seat. They'll jump out, they'll bip the window. If they get something, they get something. And then if not, they'll go to the next car and they'll bip the next car until they get something, jump in the car and take off. We've watched this on surveillances that we've conducted down at the Starbucks on Hagenberger. And sometimes they do it so fast, before we can even put it out on the radio, they're gone and they're driving down the street. Okay.
Miss Patterson, then Miss Banks.
So this is Bangs. This is Savon Bangs. I thought I was gonna speak after someone else. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah,
I
Go
have a
ahead, while we're
question.
getting Ms. Patterson unmuted.
Oh,
Go ahead, Ms. Bank.
okay. Do you think it's the same people who are smashing the windows as burglaries? So you talked about, or one of the police officers talked about Kias, but in my neighborhood, twice in the last year, we've gotten our cars broken into. They haven't taken like big items, and I'm just curious if you think the same people that are smashing the windows are the ones that are breaking into the cars.
I think it's a variety of groups. I'm not sure it's like one focus group. Maybe at certain moment in times when our department is investigating, it's a one group, depending on if it's a similar vehicle or maybe a similar trend. There's it's a huge thing going on, not just in Oakland, but in the Bay Area. For instance, I know we're dealing with B31, the auto burglaries that take place at Edgewater, oftentimes they would have a spotter. So they'll have like a pattern in which how they do so. I'm not quite sure how they're doing it on 28. So it could be different groups at certain times. They could just be searching. I'm not sure if it's like a steady group where they target a certain set of cars. They do target a certain set of areas, like I said, with Edgewater and Hagenberger, but I'm not sure if it's like one particular group.
I'd like to add to that, and it goes to what the Sergeant Johnson and Officer Sumter were saying is auto burglary is a crime of speed and volume. So you'll often see that persons involved in auto burglary, they're not going out and looking for that one car that is going to be the lucrative score. They're going to go out and hit 30 or 40 cars at a time in hope that the volume, the odds of going through that many cars will yield them high dollar items. Now I put it in the chat, but I'll say it out loud as well. The time that it takes to peer through a darkly tinted window is time that auto burglars are not willing to waste. So they will smash the window rather than take the time to peer through a difficult to see interior. And it's just one of the other challenges, I think, of the heavy window tint, a place where it backfires. The tool that the officers are referring to is a small, low dollar tool that it basically can just be pressed up against the window, and it fires a spring loaded small metal piece that spider webs out the whole window. So really, a person involved in this, it takes no effort to walk up to a window, press this tool against the window, and then just push the window in. It takes seconds to be done. And it's been all over the news, that something that we can see. I think the good news is that if in many of these instances they're not getting recoveries of any items, they're going to move on to a different location, because they're not going to waste their time working in a space and risking arrest where they're not making any real theft. So I can tell you from my conversations with the burglary investigators as well, there was no mention, nor am I aware of any window repair conspiracy going on throughout the city. I do think that these are really, again, there's a number of different, I would say, professional burglary groups that work in the Bay Area and do really, really high volume.
Ms. Patterson, then Ms. Alicia.
Thank you. And thank you all for your service to the CROs. And I wanted to ask, just first off, In my checking a couple of days ago, I was told that Beat 28 does not have a CRO. So Officer, I'm sorry, Sumter, you are our CRO?
That's correct.
Oh, good. Okay, great news. Okay, because we were feeling a little abandoned when I got that information the other day. So my street was hit Monday. I'm block captain for Allendale. We have an 80 neighbor, very well connected neighborhood. And so we got the word out right away at around 7:59 when people started going to work and found, 7 cars were hit almost in a row. And 2 of them were up at the top of Allendale and Monticello. But the same thing, they were all shattered glass windows. And the thing is, one neighbor had a video cam, shows the video where it happened like 2:34 in the morning, when everybody's asleep normally. But he had a second one that he sent this morning, and it shows the car coming up and nobody gets out or anything. And you just see heads and then something shattered, and he moves on to the next car, same thing. So they didn't even get out. And so they must use this tool, I guess. So the big question in our neighborhood is like, what are they doing? Are they doing this as a precursor to coming back? Or, is it just senseless vandalism and, costing all these folks lots of money to replace the windshields? Some were front windshields too, that happened on Monday. So I just wondered, motive, maybe it's a similar question.
Well, I can tell you that front windshields is very rarely targeted by a person committing an auto burglary, mostly just because it's an ineffective way to gain entry into the vehicle. Front windshields are more consistent with vandalism. Now, I can't, without knowing more about the specifics, we do get instances throughout the city with persons that are struggling with mental health that commit senseless acts of vandalism, and often they do work in a kind of linear fashion where moving in the direction they're walking, there's just a trail of broken items behind them. But if you're telling me that it's all cars in a row, and they were in a car themselves at the time,
Yes.
it doesn't really seem to be consistent with a mental health issue. Auto burglary has become such a widespread type of theft that we are seeing persons that are younger and younger getting involved in it. So what that may be is some persons that really are inexperienced in committing auto burglaries, which would also kind of explain why they would target a residential neighborhood, because that's usually a very ineffective way to commit auto burglaries. And it's a pretty good way of getting caught because of residential cameras as well. So what you're describing to me in that behavior, it sounds like somebody that's very inexperienced, who's got these tools and is trying to commit these auto burglaries, but likely doesn't have the experience to know that the mechanism they're using is ineffective.
Ms. Alicia, and then I'll read some questions from the chat after that.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for offering this conversation. It seems to me that this is helping us to talk about it, but I think that we need to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that there is much more crime in our neighborhood, and having some good videos of some of the events, because many of them have happened exactly in front of my camera. I feel like we need some system where we can get those evidences faster to you, and a better system to connect faster. I'm just thinking, like, I learned about this event on Nextdoor, and it seems to me that the fastest tool right now where I know what's going on in our neighborhood is actually the Nextdoor app. It's much faster than calling the police. I mean, when I try to report something, for example, it took forever just to get to the person to report when my van was crashed in front of my house. Someone just drove, like, flew there and crashed my van, destroyed it, and left. So I would love to see some system where we put together what we have already, like the Nextdoor app. Can we upload videos right there, and find some system where we can give you the evidence in a faster way, in a less frustrating way, because I also see often that in Nextdoor, many people get very frustrated because we feel not heard sometimes. We feel ignored. We feel like my situation is, I understand it's not priority. I understand that the police department is understaffed. But I feel that taking some steps, looking at the bigger picture in all the crime that is happening, where we can help you and we feel that you are being helped and heard, and we're a team. Thank you.
A couple of things there I'd like to talk about. I've had my car broken into quite a few times, and it got to the point at one time that I just stopped locking it entirely, and it's very frustrating, and it's a feeling of violation, and that I don't want to downplay like what a negative experience it is to have your car broken. Now, I will be honest that we have to prioritize violence in our calls for service. So our officers are primarily responding to 911 calls that involve danger to life, danger to safety, and we will respond to in progress crimes, but our response time to an auto burglary that's not in progress, it's not going to be fast. We're not going to be there in minutes. That's just the reality of where we're at. Now, I can also say that for auto burglary, online reporting is an option. And if you have evidence, there's a number of different mechanisms that I'd like to go through. I met with the burglary investigator this morning to follow up on this issue, and I don't see 7 reports for Allendale, for example. And even in following up on the online reporting, I do see a lot of different auto burglaries in the Maxwell Park area, but it's my fear that some of these are going unreported. And if they go completely unreported, it'll make it harder for me to dispatch people to follow up on trends, because my numbers are less than what they are in reality. So please don't give up on reporting these things, because it will affect how we distribute officers, where we push service, and what strategies that we take place going forward. We do burglary suppression, auto burglary suppression in a number of different places in the city, where we dispatch teams of officers to look specifically for persons that are involved in auto burglary and to make arrests. That is almost always driven into the commercial districts based on the statistics. If we underreport in our residential neighborhoods, the likelihood of me deciding to pull those teams from a commercial district and into a residential neighborhood is very low. So it's, in having this conversation, please don't give up on the reporting piece, even the online reporting piece, because I get the statistics for that. I can see where the crimes are occurring, and I can deploy resources accordingly. Well,
Okay, so V. Tomczak asked if does OPD have resources where They can have surveillance cameras activated. You're being watched as a deterrent for potential auto burglars.
Well, that also, I think, was a piece of the last question that I missed too. There was the uploading of technology and just how technology works with OPD in general. And it's an important piece there. So you've got a couple of different email addresses. My email address is also just my first letter of my first name and my entire last name at oaklandca.gov. I can get information sent to me, sent directly to our burglary unit. So can your CRO officers. And if there's an online report or report number that goes with that, it's a very quick way to connect. We can get videos directly as long as they're of a reasonable file size, and we can upload them to our electronic evidence database very easily to be shared citywide. So there's a number of people throughout the city, number of different neighborhood watch, neighborhood councils that are taking advantage of this. And I think this is where the neighborhood network is really powerful. The Oakland Police Department doesn't have staff to live monitor cameras. So we can put cameras up in a number of different places through court order. But live monitoring them, I mean, that's a person that's going to have to be taken off the street to watch that camera. We just don't have staff to do that. So it's mostly historical review where somebody will come in and look at things that have already happened. Where I've seen success throughout the city is when a group of neighbors, really, I think that people at at corners are have like some of the most powerful views of the coming and going of different cars into the neighborhood, and sharing that information within yourselves very quickly. So as somebody down the street gets their car burglarized, they know, well, the person at the corner whose phone number is this and who shares this information with me, I can push that directly to the police department, and they can push that out to their patrol division right away. And where I've seen some of the greatest success in that, I can think of a number of places in the city, not just in East Oakland, but in West Oakland, where there's people that the police department know that there's a network of neighbors that they can reach out to immediately when there's a crime in the area and say, hey, did you get this on video? And yep, and then within seconds, the officer has that information from the citizen, and they can push that out to patrol citywide, and it increases the chances of us solving the case, capturing the perpetrator many, many, many fold. The faster that we can get that information, the better. Now, I think it isn't necessary for the police to have direct access to that system. So if you have a system and you share with your neighbors, it isn't necessary for the police to be able to have that in real time. I think we can discuss that with our community resource officers and in different mechanism. But I think that in reality, a network of neighbors that when a crime occurs knows how to get the recording and share it with the police quickly, that's just as powerful.
Thank you for that. Ms. Patterson, I'll get to you. Let me clear some of these questions in the chat. Someone has a question about Cortland and Brookdale. The dead end, is something being done about that? And then we'll ask two questions at a time because we're running low on time. OPD prioritizing traffic stops on cars with no plates.
The challenges of the dead end of Brookdale. Do you have some, whoever asked it, is there some more information that you can share with me?
Oh, so that it's like a small, almost cul-de-sac along the kind of like the beginning of that creek park. It has been a problem. I've not lived here that long, only a year and a half, and I'm sure it's been a problem much longer than that. It is constantly filled with a car that has been stolen and then being ripped apart. If one car might be a light day. It's a hotbed. There's no light there. So when you drive by at night, it's dark. I can't even imagine what the people that live on that cul-de-sac must go through. And it's like, again, it's a known area. So why is more not being done to actually like deal with the known spots that these things are happening?
Well, these meetings are actually a perfect place to discuss those types of issues. And I think now, tonight, you're armed with additional information about how to reach out directly to your community resource officer. That kind of project is exactly the kind of thing where we can be successful with a community resource officer units, where they can open up a project on that cul-de-sac, work with lighting, work with neighbors on different security measures, work with environmental design that'll make that space less attractive to strip cars, and then work on an enforcement program concentrated in that space over a given time so that it can be sustained and it becomes no longer an attractive place. That's exactly what the community resource officer units can do for us. And if you bring those issues as you have to us, we can open up projects on those. And I truly believe a project like that is something that we can succeed in.
And then there was a question about OPD prioritizing vehicle stops on vehicles with no license plates.
So it's I think an important issue, and it segues, or it connects to another issue. The Oakland Police Department, through years of experience and through really careful study, has very deliberately formed our pursuit policy. And our pursuit policy really restricts what we can pursue a car for to violent offenses, firearm related offenses. The Oakland Police Department officers cannot pursue a car for burglary, for auto burglary. So if an officer sees an auto burglary in progress and the subject gets into a car and drives away, and the officer attempts to stop and the person flees, they'll call in air support, they'll do other things to try to get that person into custody, but ultimately they cannot, by policy, chase them. There's obviously there's trade-offs with that, a policy like that, but really I think it comes back to protecting life to be the highest priority, and pursuits are incredibly dangerous. They are a major risk to the officer, a risk to the community. They're a risk to the person perpetrating the crime. And they can, and they do, end in serious injury and significant property damage as well. So we've really taken a very careful approach to how we're going to do pursuits. Now, I wear another hat. I'm also the commander of our traffic division, which I hope you all are aware. We recently got another enforcement team, a 6-person enforcement team, back as part of the increasing the staffing of the Oakland Police Department as we continue to go through academies. We had a graduation today. We're building up some of the units that had dwindled down based on our staffing challenges, and the traffic division is one of them. The traffic division, again, reports to me, and I know that living in East Oakland and driving in East Oakland, dangerous driving is a crisis. People speeding up and down Bancroft, International, 73rd, 55th, MacArthur, using the bus lane and bike lane as highways, not stopping for red lights and stop signs, putting pedestrians and crosswalks in danger. It's a major, major issue for us. And I can tell you that since the creation of that unit and my directive to patrol has been, we have to prioritize dangerous driving. We just absolutely have to prioritize dangerous driving. So that's where the bulk of our vehicle enforcement is coming. No license plates definitely is a challenge, because it prevents many of the automated license plate reader systems, privately owned systems, the Oakland Police Department's mobile system. It prevents the vehicle from being tracked in that manner. And it also prevents us from immediately knowing whether or not the vehicle is stolen or if it's used in another crime. So it definitely is a challenge for us, and it's something that we do enforcement on, but dangerous driving has been the priority. I have to continue to press that. We had I believe the 2022 Area 5 had 14 vehicle collisions that resulted in deaths. So just Area 5, I think the citywide was 34. And it's something that we have to prioritize. Now, since the inception of the traffic unit, that 6-person team, and since the directive to patrol to prioritize this, and I can tell you, I'm going to thank Officer Andrews again. He was another leader in dangerous driving stops while in patrol. Was commended for it multiple times. We saw a 50% decrease in fatal collisions in citywide since the creation of the traffic unit, the bringing back of the traffic unit. And I think that's in no small part to the fact that they wrote 1,500 citations in 3 months for dangerous driving. So it is definitely a big challenge, and it's something that we're prioritizing going forward.
Ms. Patterson, then Veronica.
So I I saw this comment just now, and it reminded me of something that so many people have said from Craig H., where he says we said we used to remember, we invited officers to stop by our street if you're doing paperwork. We'd welcome you. And that's the thing that's really missing now, is we don't ever see officers or black and whites in our area. And that is a thing we think that can be a deterrent, just having visibility. So what are the chances? I know you're busy, you're short-staffed and all like that, but we would sure love to see black and whites in our area again, like we used to. And we've been around our group's been around for 40 years. So we've gone through the whole thing of, the problem-solving officers, the different iterations, but we would love to just see presence in our area.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And I think that this is another instance where reporting is so important, and not letting the frustrations with the time that it takes weigh you down. The more that is reported, the higher things are going to get prioritized. I think that Area 5 has a number of challenges that it faces. And again, we prioritize violence. We unfortunately had a homicide over on 80th and Dowling. And it's just something that presents us a major challenge, and something that we have to get ahead of. Now, when it comes to officer presence in the area, I think that a great way to do it is projects opened by community resource officers that include presence, include enforcement, and include additional meetings and other types of presence. I can tell you that in working with Officer Sumter over these last few months, we've been working a project at Arroyo Viejo Park and trying to beautify the park, trying to eliminate some of the crime issues that have plagued it for years, trying to make it a safe space for the neighbors of that instance. And it was based on outcry in that space, and based on that location having a statistically significant increase in crime comparative to the entire city. And we've been doing projects in Arroyo Viejo with a lot of presence. What I'm seeing right now in Maxwell Park, and what I'm seeing this trend on Allendale, Kingsland, Birdsall with these auto burglaries, we need a project. So we'll be opening one based on what we're going over tonight. We can look at the Brookdale challenge as well, and see where we can be successful and increase our presence in that manner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica?
Hi again, it's Veronica. I know that there's a lot of questions around the cul-de-sac on Cortlandt Creek and on Cortlandt Avenue and Brookdale, which is part of our Cortlandt Creek restoration project that just started at the beginning of this year. just so I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of information, and hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of peace of mind and perhaps excitement to join our monthly meetings, which takes place every third Thursday of the month with Friends of Cortland Creek, which is run by Sadie, who's our Friends of Cortland Creek lead here in Melrose. We got a city camera installed right in front of where the crime takes place. Unfortunately, those cameras are only for illegal dumping and not for crime. And so we're trying to, I had a meeting actually with Officer Sumper, I want to say 2 weeks ago, right, Officer Sumper? two, maybe 3 weeks ago. And so we are trying to come up with different ideas on how to bring down the crime there. We've also had numerous of I've met with the with the property manager of the property on 2550 Cortland Creek, which I believe is where the person committing this crime lives. And I can go on and on of everything that we've done. Our CROs are involved as of now, so thank you so much. However, because of the project that it just started, we are taking down 83 trees. There's a lot of City of Oakland equipment there throughout the day. And so the crime has come down. I have not received any emails. I have not received any calls or text messages in regards to any issues right now, which gives me peace of mind, obviously. And we've never seen it as clean. But our fear is that once the project is done, that the crime is going to come back. And that's why Officer Sumper and I are working together on this. So, but if you guys do want more information, because I don't want to speak on Cortland Creek right now, because this is about the break-ins, please join our Cortland Creek meetings. Again, I did put our website on the chat room. You guys can go to the Cortland Creek tab and get more information so you guys can get involved and get more details, because there's so much more that I'm not sharing right now, because I can take an hour just talking about Cortland Creek. So thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. I'm going to get a quick question in from the chat, and then Jose, then Miss Alicia. Does OPD have any discount programs to help residents buy cameras to put in their front yards or in the street?
There you go. I am not currently aware, and maybe if the CROs can weigh in if I'm wrong here, but I'm not currently aware of any programs directly through the police department, but there has been city programs in the past that have aided this process. That's something I'd have to follow up on if you want to send me an email, and I will do a follow-up and respond to you.
I'll have my office look up if there's city programs as well. Jose, then Miss Alicia.
Okay, I've got a number of pages of notes. I'm certainly not going to go into everything that I'd like to because of time, but I just wanted to make a couple of observations. In fact, more than a couple. One is that for people in Maxwell Park, we, again, going back to the Maxwell Park Neighborhood Council, we have a website, maxwellparknc.org. Please take the time to look at our website. Secondly, we have regular meetings by Zoom for now, and we'll have hybrid meetings in the future, I'm sure. And we do that every second Wednesday again by Zoom. So at 7 o'clock on Wednesday of the odd numbered months. So please join us, and certainly you can get in touch with us through the website. My contact information is there, as well as others on the board. I had some years ago, I had an opportunity to talk to the people I believe that you're referencing Captain Tedesco up there in the hills, and they have a very, very sophisticated system. And we inquired because we wanted to duplicate that down here, but they were willing to do that, but at quite a price. So I'm hoping that in either talking to them again or talking to you, we can get a handle on a possible system that is coordinated, monitored, a monitoring system of cameras that are privately owned and privately operated. And if we have that kind of equipment, then the street, the neighborhood can decide how and when it can be used. The important part, and the council will be talking to you more about the number of things that I'm going to be mentioning, as well as discussing among ourselves and with a council member. But this is one thing that I really am hoping that is a real way of dealing with these kinds of crimes and all kinds of crimes. Is the specific neighborhood and or street really moving up to having a coordinated system of monitoring via cameras and maybe other ways of doing it as well. So we'll be talking to you more about that, and of course, certainly we'll be talking about that among ourselves. I'm very happy to hear that we've got a CRO, and that's quite a surprise. I wish we'd have known. We did not know that we have a CRO. Officer Sumter, you are actually our 28X CRO assigned to us. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent, excellent. We will be talking. I wish we'd have been informed of that, but we know it now. We definitely will be talking to you. And going back to the projects that Captain Tedesco spoke of, that's also some of aspect of what we do is have priorities go through the SARA process, which is, I'm not going to go into that, but it's a scan, analyze, respond, assess. It's a specific way that a project or a priority of the neighborhood council can and will be dealt with. So going back to the monitoring system, one of the things we'll be talking to you about, Captain Tedesco, is the specific way that the video can and will be passed on to you. And obviously we understand that the speed is of the essence. So that's one of the things that we want to talk to you about, is how that can be done at in the most efficient and speedy way. And in terms of the response time, there is a study that showed that the number of officers that were going through dispatch half of them were going out to nonviolent and non-criminal calls. So that brings up a whole range of questions about how that happens when we have the level of violence that we do in Oakland. Why are there police being dispatched to nonviolent, non-criminal calls? And it speaks directly to response times. That's another question. That's another topic that we'll be talking about. It's a long way of saying that there's a number of issues that are integral, I think, to not just the question of this spate of vandalism, but crime in Maxwell Park in general. And that's why we will be speaking with you, Captain Tedesco, and certainly our CRO, Officer Sumter. So again, thank you so much for being our CRO. We definitely will be in touch, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Appreciate the council member for putting us together, and again, for everybody that knows little or nothing about the neighborhood council, please, again, maxwellparknc.org, and contact us. There's any number of things that we can speak about, not just this vandalism that we've experienced, but any number of other projects and concerns that we have. We're all in this together. We're all neighbors, and that's how we need to deal with it in a collective manner. Thank you.
Can you put that email in the chat? And then for Officer Tedesco, or I mean Captain Tedesco, or any of the officers, can you put an email in the chat where people can send videos? That's one of the things coming up. And then Miss Alicia, and then Miss Boyce, if you have questions.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I wanted just to point out that we always have to remember that not everybody has access to internet and websites. We have a big population of elders in Maxwell Park, which I think also is part of why our neighborhood probably is more vulnerable. And I think that has to be put in the equation also. I don't know if there could be some campaign where there could be flyers distributed to all homes, giving options. Is there a way to report a crime by phone? I mean, I think that's a basic information that needs to be spread out, so more reports are done at the right time. So, and you know, same thing with cameras. I mean, we do have many neighbors who wouldn't be able to afford and probably don't have a wireless system. It feels to me that also there are more corners that are obviously where most of the crime, you know, whoever is doing a crime passes by. Like I can think of Foothill and 55th. 55th, I mean, cars fly by, and that's where many accidents have happened. So I would love to see also an increase in, you know, I mean, maybe the city should have cameras at the lights at that corner right there. That you probably can get a lot of the videos of the scenes more quickly. Thank you.
Ms. Contreras, I just want to follow up with your question. I would like to tell everyone, especially with the video camera stuff and sending it to us, by all means, please continue to call. Our non-emergency is 510-777-3333. If you do have an emergency, obviously it's 911. But I also would like everyone to utilize 0311 as well for any other kind of blight issues, illegal dumping, etc. Abandoned cars, utilize 0311 as well. I often tell people on my meetings to utilize those resources first before actually going directly to us, the CROs, with information, because what we don't want is everyone to send what would be reported through our dispatch straight through an email. And then what happens is we get bombarded with emails, even Captain Tedesco as well, is that we end up getting issues that should be reported, you know, through our dispatch, and then where we can get an officer out there, or that could be reported on our online system as well. So before you actually send any of that stuff, you should always please call, get an incident number, a report number, whatever it is, and then send the email to one of us. That way we can follow. If you have video or something like that, we can take that information, we can follow up with you, or take it to our CID or one of the investigators that was handling that report. So we don't want you to just send a video and say, hey, this is what's going on. I'd rather actually make a report first so I can follow up with that way, with an incident number or report number.
Thank you.
Officer Tedesco, did you have anything?
Officer Sumter actually answered what I was going to say. I think there was one other piece to that, was the online reporting piece is workable via mobile device. So you can from your phone do a number of different pieces of online reporting. There's been a couple of questions about different systems, surveillance systems for this. I think I will work with the CRO team and Councilman Jenkins and look to seeing what was right for, not every system is right for every neighborhood. There's tons of different costs involved. The more people that are involved obviously can offset the costs greatly. There's some pretty amazing systems out there, but the costs can be significant. There is also some budget systems out there that work surprisingly well for much less money, but the sharing of information is usually manual in those systems. The cloud storage isn't really there, which makes sharing the information harder.
Ms. Paulette, then Mr. Johnson.
Hi, I've got a quick idea that with all of the break-ins that happened in the last couple of weeks, that if we have a newsletter that goes out every month, and maybe putting some of this information on that newsletter will help people understand that if you see something, or if you see a break-in, or if you have a break-in, make sure that you go online and put all this information in so that the numbers will reflect what's really happening. Because Pat said that there was something on her block. I saw something on Meldon. There were at least 10 cars that had their windows broken in. And there were already some repair guys out there helping clean up the mess. So this is inexcusable, but I think if people had the knowledge that, go ahead, put it in, write it down, make a report. It doesn't take that long to do it, just do it. And then that way you'll have, officer, you'll have the data that you need to support our desire to have more police presence in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, so just to touch on a couple of things, something in the chat, and then to Mr. Dorado. So Officer Sumter and Officer Andrews are your CROs, but they're also responsible for beats 26, 27, 29, and 30. Just so that you know, they have more than just 28 right now. And then also there was something in the chat about PG&E. We do have a program that we are working with PG&E. That does not take away from our response or police response. That is an overtime shift that is put out to officers who want to work on their days off. And it doesn't affect what's happening with our patrol calls or with our CROs. There's nothing that is done through regular time. It's something that people are doing on their day off. And then also about the reporting of the auto burglaries. A lot of times when you call into the dispatch center, I used to be the supervisor at the dispatch center. They will tell you that you can do the report online. So I know there is a lot of elderly in Maxwell Park. They just have to let them know that they can't make a report online, and that they can possibly send out an officer to that area. It might take a little longer for an officer to get out for a report, but we'll try to get someone out there. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Boyce?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Councilmember Jenkins, for having this meeting. And thank you, neighbors, for allowing me to participate, as I am a resident here in beat 30X in Havens Court. But I did want to come to this meeting because I wanted to share my experience. I recently had one of my very good friends and neighbors from Maxwell Park come down and do some cleanup here in Havens Court and got to see some of the things that I'm going to describe. The officer was saying that he would like us to use 311. Well, I've had a horrific experience with 311 in that I report things regularly, every day, several times a day. And often my experience is that those things are not addressed, but simply either acknowledged or cleared as closed, but never actually addressed. And a friend of mine came down and was able to see the thing that was actually cleared as closed, but clearly still there in the flesh. And for whatever reason, when he used his 311 app, it actually did get addressed. And so one of the major things that I'm reporting time and time again is a code enforcement issue with a property on my block where people are regularly chopping cars. My neighbors are active car thieves, and I see them doing this, and I report them all the time, and nobody does anything about it. In fact, they stole a car, cut the cat off of it, and left the car running on the corner for over 12 hours. And when the officers arrived and I attempted to approach them and to give them information, pictures that I had, they were totally uninterested in the information that I had and made me feel like my presence there was aggravating to them. They was not interested in what I was trying to share with them. And nor has anyone been interested in the many videos and reports that I have made over the past 5 years. So I don't understand. It's very frustrating for me. I've made a profession out of reporting and nothing gets done. And yet I look at these people day in, day out, bring cars from neighboring communities onto my block, take them apart and leave them scattered all over the neighborhood. And I just simply can't understand why that's been happening for so long, unimpeded at all. And if anybody could give me any feedback as to what someone who has done everything asked of them to do should do next, because it's at the point now where my neighbors are threatening me when they see me coming down the street, taking pictures to harm me. And I'm going to get hurt out here just simply picking up trash. And because no one will actually come and actually respond to any of the things I'm reporting. So that's my frustration, but yet here I am trying to figure out ways to do it better. So any advice you guys have, I'll take. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Well, ma'am, first I would like to say I totally hear your frustration with 0311. Me as an officer, I also use 0311 as well. I report things to 0311 myself. And yes, they don't get handled in a timely fashion. So I totally understand your frustration. There is some inconsistencies with the app, but I have had some of my issues addressed as well. So, and then not a timely fashion as well. So I totally understand. But please, by all means, next time, if you have an 0311, please report the same thing. And then I put my email in the chat. Send me your 031 incident number and I can kind of follow up myself. If you're reporting something like what's happening at that residence, please take photos from a safe distance. Do not walk up on these individuals. We don't want anything further from out of that. But outside of that, yeah, please do it from a safe distance. Report it, and then again, if you call something like that in, please call it in, and again, follow with me with an incident number and email it to me. And we can also look further into that property as well. Maybe get some kind of a nuisance abatement against the property, whatever. We can work with other departments on handling that property as well for the long run. Now,
I'd like to jump in on the Oak 311 as well. And I think that this is going to circle back to what I was saying about the online reporting and following through on a report. It's very difficult for us to act on the absence of a report. And Oak 311 codifies these issues in a way that's trackable, in a way that we can go back and see, and we can see how many people reported the issue as pictures. And it's easily provable as to whether or not the issue has been fixed or not, which makes it much easier in the long term for us in these meetings to reference specific incidents, escalate them, and make sure that they get followed through properly. If we talk about something that has no report, it's much harder to go back and make sure that it gets followed through properly. So I understand. I use Oak 311 as well, and I track different requests, and there's a lot of requests. And yes, I have seen requests get closed that are not completed, but I've also seen many completed properly. So continue to use the system. If you see something that is closed improperly, reopen it and escalate the issue with your neighborhood council and in meetings like this one, because then we can follow up on those issues and make sure that they're addressed properly. It is in my opinion, it's a great mechanism for accountability and in tracking whether or not something has been done.
Okay, so we have time for like 2 really quick questions. We'll do wrap up and then we'll do next steps after that. So Jose and Miss Alicia, you were first, but really quick questions. And then we will wrap up.
You know what, Kevin, why don't I make my remarks at the wrap up? Because I really didn't have a question, so I'm going to take my my hand out.
Okay.
So Alicia?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute my, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Just one question. Well, not question, I'm sorry, but I heard that when someone cannot do the reporting online, can call and that the officers would come, days later to do the report. It seems to me that maybe we can find better mechanisms there. Like, it seems to me that it would be better use of the officer's time to actually go to the real, the crimes that are happening at the moment rather than taking the reports. I wonder if this is something that our community group, or whatever the name is, Jose says always the name, but I remember what's the name, but maybe there could be like a group of neighbors volunteering at different times, different days, helping, taking those reports, so we can also be more proactive about lowering, the time of our police officers taking reports, and that could increase more time taking care of other things. Just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Jose, can you, a minute or so?
I'm sorry?
Can 1 minute or so? Can you wrap it up in about a minute?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to everyone that there is no substitute for community pressure. And there's no substitute for us doing it collectively. And that's what I appreciate about Veronica Garcia and Bob Bonner down at 27Y, is we've done that sort of communication, and we're going to continue. But it's going to take community pressure to get the kinds of things that we need to have done. And by that, I mean, we're going to have to organize ourselves to the point where we're putting pressure on the mayor, we're putting pressure on the city council. And don't forget that the city administrator, whoever it turns out to be, is really the one that's there to implement policy. Council members are there to make policy, but the ones that's supposed to make sure that the policy is implemented is the city administrator. So these things don't happen in a vacuum. We have to be organized enough to put the pressure where it needs to be applied. And that goes for what we just heard from Ms. Boyce down in the 311 is not working. We need to find out why, and we need to put pressure on whoever. It's necessary to find out why that's not working. We need to make sure that projects get addressed. The priorities that are set by the neighborhood councils go through the CROs and through the SARA process. And we need to make sure that this, and again, talking about pressure on OPD, on the mayor, on the city administrator, to see to it that CROs go back to their beats. We don't have near enough CROs staffing, and we need to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple of things, I want to wrap this up. So neighbors might not have been able to attend because this was a really quick turnaround. So what we want to do is make sure that they're able to attend the NCPC of Maxwell Park, which Jose will be next Wednesday at what time?
Not next Wednesday. It's every odd month. It'd be March the 2nd. It'll be the 8th of March, 7 o'clock by Zoom.
Okay. And if you could drop that in the chat. What we're going to do, this is recorded, so we're going to upload it on YouTube and we'll send it out to Judith so that this could be sent out to this entire group, and we'll send it out as well. We'll also put it in the newsletter. Captain Tedesca gave some great information. So what we're going to try and do is work with the public information officer of OPD and my comms team so that we can synthesize that and put it in a graphic. We're also, hopefully somebody from OPD can do a quick video, like 2-3 minutes of like the best tips to keep the neighborhood safe from these vehicular incidents. And so hopefully we can do that and get it sent out. Also, we will send out the CRO names and emails so that you guys have that readily available. And Judith just put her email in the chat. So make sure you sign up for the 28X chat. Thank you guys so much for spending your Friday. Hopefully we can get this under control. Enjoy your weekends. Thank you so much.